Pro Football Hall of Famer Kurt Warner. How are you, Kurt?
I'm doing good. How are you, Rich?
What do you think? What's going on with Cam? What do you see?
Obviously, we all feel there's something going on. To what degree, I don't know if anybody really knows. Watching week one, a lot of people were talking about arm strength and some of those things. I saw him make some throws from the backside hash to outside the numbers on the other side of the field, some deep comeback throws, which are one of the longest throws in football, with plenty of velocity. So, I didn't get the indication that, there's something wrong with his shoulder to the point where he can't throw with velocity. He can't push the ball down the field. Yet I did see in week one, and we saw it again last night, is he misses a lot of layups. A lot of those throws that are just, by NFL standards, wide open, and he just flat out misses them. And, for a number of years, I just feel like sometimes he doesn't have the best technique. He throws a lot with his upper body, throws a lot with his arm. And, when you do that, you have a tendency to kind of be up and down and sporadic with your, with your accuracy. And that's always been the case with Cam. He's been better at deeper throws when he can really push the ball down the field than the underneath throws. But, I think to myself, well, it's a left foot that he has an injury with. I don't know how much that really affects you throwing the football. It's not your plant foot. So it's really hard to determine exactly why he's missing these throws outside of just technique stuff. I don't feel like his arm is hurt or he wouldn't be able to make some of the throws that he has made. He just got to find a way to become more accurate if they're going to win some of these games, and he's going to put his team in best position. And then, obviously, at the end of the game, it makes no sense outside of, he's more injured than somebody wants to let on, that you don't give him the ball in that situation, that you don't run the quarterback power and, get two lead backs in there and get your big 250-pound quarterback and run for a half a yard, to try a gimmick play where it's more about fooling teams than actually, out muscling them or out executing them for a first down just makes absolutely no sense, because that's where Cam has always been at his best and where they've always used him is in that area of the field. So there has to be something going on there, whether it's something lingering or it's just saying, hey, we don't want to get him hurt because we need him. But that just made no sense to me last night.
Well, it's snowballing now. We're showing on the screen 8 straight losses in starts for Cam. 8 straight. Now, last year there was his shoulder, and you point out some of the throws look, the deep throws, deep middles, shows that he does have the arm strength. Could it be between the temples, Kurt? Did you ever have a between the temples issue when it came to mechanics and things like that?
Not so much mechanics, but I think that can always play into it. If you're thinking about your foot because it is bothering you a little bit, can that, affect the way you throw football, the way you follow through, or the way you plant? Of course it can. When you're coming off a shoulder injury, I never really had a shoulder injury. But yeah, those things can definitely play into things when you're playing, as opposed to just looking at what the defense does and reacting off what the defense does. If you're thinking about anything else, it can affect you in a lot of different ways. So, with all he's been through over the last couple of years and maybe what he's dealing with right now, I think it's quite possible that, when you try to be too perfect a lot of times is when you are farther away from perfection than when you just react and play. And we always say that as players. You want to get to the point where you can just react, that you know what you're doing and you don't worry about technique. You don't worry about any injuries. You're just back there going, oh, this is what the defense does. Bang, throw the ball. You don't think about trying to make sure you set it in there perfectly and that you hit the guy between the numbers. You're just good enough that you react and you make those throws. So could it be that he's pressing? Could it be that he's trying to be too perfect with some of the other issues that he's dealing with? Yeah, that's all possible, and it gets in between your ears, like you said, and it usually takes you further and further away from who you are as a player. And it really seems like that's where Cam's at right now. This isn't the Cam that we've come to know, whether it's a reaction of just taking off and running, or just getting back there and ripping it. And if he misses one, so what? He comes back and gets the next one. He just doesn't seem to be playing with that same type of confidence right now.
Kurt Warner here on the Rich Eisen Show. Kurt and I will be hanging out with Mooch and Irv for another edition of NFL Game Day Morning, 9 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. They're both in their 5th year. They're both in their options. They're both without long-term deals on the table. I give you Jameis or Mariota, Kurt. I'm going to go sports talk radio on your. You got to choose one. Which one do you choose for the next 5 years?
That's a good question. Wow, I'm probably taking Jameis because I've seen more upside as a passer from him than I have Marcus. But we continue to talk about it with Jameis is that the bottom line with Jameis is he makes a lot of plays on the football field, but he makes too many mistakes at critical times. He hasn't been able to delineate between what is a good risk to take and what's a bad risk to take. And, we've seen those guys in the past. The great ones figure that out as they go, and then they make all these plays, and they'll make a mistake here or there, but they make way more plays than they make mistakes. And then the guys that are just average, even though they're talented, are the guys that never figure that out, and they give you one great performance and then the next one's awful, and then another good performance and then the next one's awful. And that's really where he's been. He's been a roller coaster the entire time, but I've seen more from him passing-wise than with Marcus. Marcus, again, has had moments, but his moments have been fewer and further between than Jameis. That I really don't know because, Marcus will wow you every once in a while, and you go, gosh, there it is. He shows you that he can do everything. But it's just not there all the time from a timing standpoint and a big play capacity and really seeing the field and, being able to build around him. So, both very inconsistent so far in their career, but if I have to pick one, I'm probably picking Jameis, hoping that somehow, some way, we can get him to eliminate some of those bigger risks that he's taken and come back on the interceptions. And I think if he does that, he's got a chance to win a lot more games.
And that's game 1 of week number 2. As soon as we're done with game day morning, taking everybody up to kickoff of the bulk of week number 2, you're going to be taking off for New Jersey. You're the voice of, along with Kevin Harlan, Monday Night Football on Westwood One, and what a dandy this is going to be between the Browns and the Jets. I won't ask you if you've ever had mono, Kurt, so we'll just put that one aside. It's interesting you're going to be in the building here. Greg Williams was accused by Odell yesterday of having dirty tactics and said his own teammates told him that Greg Williams last year was counseling his players to go low on Odell and take him out of the game for a preseason game. You have been on the business end of a Greg Williams defense. As a matter of fact, that some of the games that you were in, one game in particular, was part of the Bountygate testimony. I wonder what you think of Greg Williams saying he's never coached those tactics, Kurt. I'm sure this will be part of your Monday night broadcast. We might as well front load it here with you.
Well, first of all, Rich, I am taking next Monday off, so I will not be at that game, just to clarify. That's one of the couple that I'm taking off this year.
Oh, man. Okay, so I'm glad I'm getting the exclusive then here. Kurt, what do you got?
No problem. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Okay.
But, I have been. And it's interesting because I kind of feel like when you're answering some of these, or when Greg is answering some of these questions, it's really about semantics. And, I don't want to say that any coach ever coaches cheap shots. Coaches, go out and hurt somebody for the long term, take out a knee so they can't play the rest of the year. But I do believe for, outside of Greg Williams for a long time, that there's been lots of teams that take the approach, hey, let's knock this guy out of the game. And, it's not in the malicious manner. It's not in the, we're going to take a cheap shot and try to knock him out. It's simply we don't want him to play against us. So let's go and hit him really hard. Let's hit him really often, and let's try to get him, to the point where, he shuts down or, again, injury, or you bang him up enough that he's sitting on the sideline instead of playing against you. That's been a part of football for a long, long time. And so, when people ask Greg that stuff, I think that's the semantics of it. I mean, obviously there's evidence that, he's done things to say, hey, let's knock this guy out of the game. Let's go after this guy. Now, whether he coaches the cheap shot portion of it, I don't know, and that could be what he was referencing. I never tell anybody to go out and blow somebody's knee out or do anything like that. But obviously very interesting, with all that's come out and knowing what the past of Greg Williams has been, because I look back to my situation, and obviously I got knocked out of a game against the Saints in that kind of Bountygate time period. but the hit on me was 100% legal. The guy hit me between the numbers. He didn't hit my head. He didn't go low. I was in kind of a defenseless position, but that's part of football sometimes. I'm trying to, cover up and make a tackle on an interception, and I got blown up. And so, I look at that, and, all I can do is say, hey, it was a big hit. It was a good hit, and it was a clean hit. And if things happen like that, it's part of the game that I chose to play. But I think it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out, and if there's more questions on both sides, especially aimed at Greg Williams because of his past.
Well, next time I ask you that question, I'll give you the oxygen tank for the high road. Okay, I don't want you to get lightheaded, Kurt. Okay, when you answer that question.
I appreciate it.
Before I let you go, let's talk about your protege that's dominating here at USC in his first couple of opportunities, Kedon Slovis, who you coached at Scottsdale Desert Mountain High. Kurt, fascinatingly enough, he's doing very well with an opportunity that was afforded him through injury, which I find amazing that that it's kind of a Kurt Warner birth here for him in USC, right? Huh?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, fascinating that I knew he had a great spring, and they were very high on him, and obviously slated as the number 2, going into the season, and then the injury to JT, and you get elevated and pushed into that position. But I mean, I'm so excited for Kedon that he is a young man that obviously I've known for a while, but a kid that always wanted to be great. He always wanted to learn. He wanted me to push the envelope with him. We asked him to do a whole bunch here in high school, and a big part of that was I knew he wanted to play at the next level, and he had skills to play at the next level. And so, every week I was trying to push the envelope with him and trying to teach him new things and see how far he could go at the high school level in hopes of preparing him for an opportunity just like this. And, and I love what they did with him this past week. Watched the tape and talked to him a little bit, and a lot of the stuff that they called for him this past week was very similar to stuff that we had done in high school. And I don't know if that was a conscious effort or if that was just part of their offense, but you saw the results of it. He looked extremely comfortable. He knew what he was doing with the football, played, very mature. I loved him, getting the guys fired up coming out of the tunnel before the game and just showing his leadership. So, I think we're always surprised when somebody has this success this quickly, whatever level that is. But I'm not surprised that this young man was going to have success at this level because he's prepared for it and he's been pushed for it and he's worked hard. Every different thing that he's trying to do so he can play at this level and have this kind of success. So can't wait to see where it goes. I mean, coming in as a true freshman at USC and starting the way that he did, if he continues to play well, the sky's the limit for what he can accomplish and what he can be and probably the opportunities at the next level. And so I'm pulling for him and can't wait to watch him play again.
Kurt, see you Sunday. See you.
All right, buddy.
See you this weekend. Thanks for the call, brother.
All right, man.
You're the best.
Bye-bye.
That's Kurt Warner.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.